Well, everybody, pleasure to be here again. I'm George Borden, Solution Architect with NEC, Sharp NEC Corporation. And it's really great to be back at this fantastic virtual show. I did the show last year, had a wonderful time, and again, I'm glad to be back. I love the theme of the conference, communicating and collaborating in a connected world, from conference rooms to classrooms, video everywhere. That's a mouthful, but it's so appropriate as we're getting into what I would call maybe a transition of getting back into the office, depending upon where you're at, in a slow and steady way. That seems to be the pathway in which we are undertaking right now. So what I'd like to do is start by revisiting some slides that I presented last year, just to see, just to talk a little bit about how as equally important as those items were last year, transitioning into the home environment, they're just as important transitioning back into a work environment. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about some of our flagship products that fall within this space, a couple other suggestions, and then we're going to end it with some tips and some best practices. That I'm sure most of us out there have already established battle plans and things like that, but I always like to reiterate that just to keep it fresh in front of our mind. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get into the first slide that some of you may remember from last year, and it was all the challenges that we were facing moving into transitioning, working differently from different environments. So now that we're getting back to the office, or some of us are getting back to the office, we may have some of our bad habits that we've accumulated and that we're carrying back into the office again. But I think now that we've gone through this, we have learned so much, we have adapted so much, so many efficiencies have been created, so many redundancies have been eliminated. And I think we've gotten through this with a lot more efficiency and a lot more spirit than I think we thought we were going to. So the first thing that still remains a constant is verbal and audio communication. So as we're using conference rooms, classrooms, boardrooms, the communication verbal audio factor has never been more important. We will now be back, hopefully, in proximity to our co-workers and our friends, in these environments where we can see them and their inflection, we can hear their tone and inflection in their voice, we can see their body language, and then there won't be any impediments necessarily like video conferencing, but that's still a mainstay. Written and illustrative communication, as we've been crutched to use, should I say collaborative technologies, depending upon the technology that you use from a software perspective and the accuracy that you need depending upon your vertical, that's still going to be very important moving into the future as we have these, hybrid work environments. Just real quickly, our corporation headquarters in Chicago, we have, an A-B tier system where some people are load balancing, still working from home. Some people are load balancing coming into the office. So those mechanisms which allow them to have proper written and illustrative communication definitely has to be there and is still going to be used consistently. Media communication, what I mean by that is repositories of storage for your media file types. We use a product called Microsoft Teams, Zoom. A lot of these places have central repositories where you can share your PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, publish your documents, things like that. So if you don't have that, it's highly recommended that you have a central location where you can use, servers or, PCs, that kind of thing. They call it the cloud, the ubiquitous cloud, in order to share those documents and save them in real time, and also to collaborate on those documents in real time if need be. I mentioned this just a second ago, but on-prem and off-prem balance. Every one of the verticals out there, every one of your verticals have different rules and regulations and temperaments, regarding that. That's going to be a constant for some time moving into the future. So respectfully, as your rules allow you to adhere to that on-prem, off-prem balance, that's definitely going to be a mainstay moving into the future. Choosing the right software. Some of us, and I mentioned last year, we were caught by surprise where we maybe didn't have a standardization on software. We had to, experiment. We had to figure out what software was right for us. And I think now that we've been down the road a bit on this, I would say 99.9% of everybody has done that. And then we'll talk a little bit about that at the end when I give you the best tips and practices about software and what we should consider regarding that. And then lastly, of course, cleaning and disinfecting. I want to, stay away from the bad word, but I'm going to, just say that we will be more diligent, our due diligence for cleaning and disinfecting these on-prem pieces of equipment. I like to mention that. and talk about the best practices as that as well. So those challenges, again, that we faced originally, we now face them in a different way going back, and it's good to keep those top of mind. So with Sharp NEC, what we've done is that we have a couple different products that get us into the collaboration space, the interaction space, also, things that can add convenience to turning on devices without having to touch those devices and some other things. The first product that I want to talk about is a mainstay product that we've had for the last several years. It's been a fantastic selling product in our display arsenal called the CB series. The CB series, in my opinion, as the person that's been leading the charge for this, lends for a very malleable platform that can be as basic as the entry-level needs of an entry-level company need be, all the way up to advanced needs by adding computers and cameras and microphones, and we'll talk about that as we go along. So this device really has a broad spectrum of opportunity for each one of you out there in your own particular verticals. Now, what is the CB series? Well, it adds a lot to it out of the gate. So the first and foremost, it has a fantastic whiteboard. The whiteboard was developed for us, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in a couple slides down the road here. It's developed for us by a company in Ireland called DisplayNote out of Belfast. They make fantastic software, not only for us, but for some other competitor products. But the whiteboard is a fantastic whiteboard with robust features and the ability to have more than one whiteboard open in the same session, which I have rarely seen in my time in this space. Also, the device can be broadcast to, so you can bring your own device into a classroom or a boardroom, and you can use the Mosaic Connect software that we have provided, which I'll talk about as well, that you can then broadcast your device to that, regardless of whether it's an Android device, a Windows device. We even have AirPlay built into the product for Apple devices as well. You can connect multiple external devices to the unit. So it has 3 HDMI inputs, we have a VGA input, and then there are USB connections that you can tie back to that external input so that you can control that external device from the touchscreen of the CB unit. And that goes both ways. Also, file transfer capability is available within that USB. There's 2 convenient USB ports on the front for ease of access. And if you want to load files within your external PC, or if you use a PC and you put it behind a utility closet and run longer cables to it, you don't have to worry about walking around and opening the door and installing it that way. You can install it directly from the port, the USB ports in the front of the device. If you want to, you can add an OPS computer. OPS is an acronym for Open Pluggable Specification, or as we say in the slang term, Open Pluggable Slot. And I actually have a show and tell here to show you, if you can still see my video, nice small form factor device that slides into a port in the back of the unit. Allows for Windows 10 Pro, wireless connectivity is built in, you even have external video out. So at this point, this is where you would add, your camera of your choice, your microphone of choice, to turn the CB series into a full-blown collaboration solution. We have the ability to do media presentations with the device. The device can, you can input APK files. You can download APK files from APK download sites into the product. So if you wanted to use Adobe Acrobat or the Microsoft PowerPoint player, Firefox browser, things like that, then you can do that manually through APK downloads. And then we also can customize the screen background. So regardless of your vertical, the background that you see generically on the CB, if you look through any of our literature, can be changed. So that's especially appropriate for schools and businesses where they want to have corporate branding and corporate logos. Now, onto the hardware, a little bit of the product. I mentioned some things regarding inputs with the 3 HDMI, USB, VGA, the 2 front-facing USBs. We have robust audio into the product, so you have audio input, digital audio out, analog audio out. We have 2 12-watt speakers built into the product. Again, I mentioned the OPS slot. It comes with passive pens. So regarding passive pens, there's no battery to worry about. There's no charging to worry about, no connectivity to worry about. It's simply a blunt instrument that you use to write on the display, and it's not mutually exclusive to the display. So if you misplace a stylus, and you want to keep writing, you can use your finger, you can use any other blunt tip writing instrument to write on the CB series, not a problem whatsoever. The unit is a different unit than our other standard display series, in which this product is the only product in our arsenal that runs Android 8.0. And that's powered by a solid state media player, one of those ARM processor media players that you've seen, sort of like a low power cell phone using an ARM processor with 16 gigabytes of storage. So on that ARM processor solid state media player, we have our operating system, and then about 15 gigs or so for storage for other media and file save types. You can also hook this device up to a network. It has Samba Share, so if any IT folks out there in the audience use SMB file sharing, you can add a file share to the network with this for additional storage, or you can plug storage unit into the unit. We have 350 nits, 350 candela per meter squared, so it's plenty bright for most environments that you would have. As a convenience factor, it also comes with a wall mount. So if you have a wall mount application for the unit, one comes with, but I'm guiding folks away from wall mount, at least during this time of transition, to add for flexibility, because as most of us know, we've been repurposing rooms, we have been repurposing technology, or we've been using technology in mobile fashion. So I do recommend rolling carts for displays and for interactive displays like this. Again, just to reiterate, we have 5 USB input slots, 2 in the front, 3 in the back. We have 3 HDMI inputs, and then we also have a VGA input. And then, as mentioned, we have it preloaded with some fantastic software, Mosaic Connect, and also the Mosaic Whiteboard software. Those are perpetual licenses. These are not beta licenses or test licenses that you have to pay for at another time. When you buy the CB series product, you own this software for the life of the ownership of the product. Now, there's some other bits of software in here. There's a classroom software where you can actually have a phone, or you can bring your own device and put in a QR code address, and then users in the class or in the meeting can actually interact with questions posed to the audience. It's called Air Class formally, so that's available. And then there's other things in here like stopwatch, countdown clock, timers, and things like that that add convenience and another level of functionality. If anyone out there wants to see a demo of the product, I'm more than happy to send a YouTube video that I've recorded that hits all the highlights. Or if you have the need for custom demo, I'm more than happy to do that for anybody out there in the group. Now, talking a little bit about the software, the 2 pieces of software that are the mainstay are the whiteboard and the connection software. The whiteboard, it's the fully functioning whiteboard software. It's easy to use for collaboration. You can erase down to the pixel level. You can import images. You can create multiple boards. And that's personally what I like about the whiteboard more than anything else, because most whiteboards I've seen out there are one and done, or one and erase and keep going. This one, you can actually put a logical progression of information together and sort of as you would expect in a classroom scenario, and you don't have to close and open and save as each time, and it becomes some administrative inconvenience when you're giving your presentation. So the fact that you can have more than one whiteboard open and go to that very quickly within this software is fantastic. You can save the project file as its proprietary format file, or you can output the file as a PDF, not only a single page PDF, but you can actually output all slides and whiteboards that you have within the single session to multiple PDF pages. Annotation is available within this product, not only within the whiteboard, but you also have overriding annotation for any element that you bring into the CB series. You can't see it here on the screen, but there's 2 arrows that go up and down the right and the left-hand side. And when you tap those arrows, additional navigation buttons open up. And one of those is an annotation button. So you can actually tap for a writing tool, you can tap for a highlighter tool, there's an erase button, and then anything that you bring into the CB series. That even includes web pages, YouTube videos. What it does is it frees the background layer, allows you to annotate on top, and then you can save that annotation with the background layer as a PNG image file to then distribute however you see fit. So that's also available as well. Freehand draw is available, fast shape draw, quick tool select. One of the other great things about this product is that there's a control palette with all of your tools in it. So your writing tool, your picture import tool, your eraser tool, shape tool, those tools can actually be broken out of the palette. So if there's two folks working on the board simultaneously, you can give them the ability to use their respective tools individually without having to cross over the presenter and block the image from the audience. So that's another key trick to the product. So ultimately, Mosaic Canvas is included. Again, perpetual license, no ongoing fees associated with that, and that's available for you to take advantage of immediately out of the box. Now, most of us, like I mentioned early on, we have settled in on what respective software that we are using, whether it's Teams, GoToMeeting, Zoom that we're using here today. But for convenience, we've also added in Mosaic Connect. And again, it's developed for us by DisplayNote out of Belfast. And what this software does is it allows up to 4 users individually to present their device, not only locally, but also remotely. So if you're a school and you haven't, settled on using any particular type of software, and you're anticipating maybe 1 or 2 students not being able to come into the class, as long as they have a 6-digit code and a way to connect to the device, either from a download app or from using a download for Google Chrome web browser, then you can actually show your device remotely. And it even adjusts for orientation shifts. So if you're using a phone that can do horizontal and portrait orientation, or tablets, it'll show up that way on the CB board. Now, once you're showing your information on the CB board, then the educator or the presenter on the local level of the CB can then annotate over top of the work and then save that as a PNG image file to then distribute to the class. We also have the ability within this software to upload files. So during the session and the session only, if the student or the user remotely wanted to share their file with the rest of the group, then they simply upload that to the repository of storage for others to download. Once that session ends, then that download erases automatically. So it's not a perpetual storage element, it's just a just-in-time storage element that adds another level of convenience. The other thing is that we can do cross-network compatibility. So we have the ability to do AirPlay, we have the ability to do local, we have the ability to do remote, the cloud connectivity function I just mentioned, share function, rolling security code, so it's not a perpetual security code, so if we're worried about anybody getting in and goofing off, that code changes each time. And then, as I just mentioned, which I forgot I wrote up here, it clears the file after you finish the session. So ultimately, the CB series solution really gives you, the end user, the ability to start as basic as you need to start, or to be as advanced as you need to go, with the ability to add your own computer or add your own OPS computer with, of course, camera, microphone, to turn it into a full-blown collaboration device. Now, switching gears a little bit, all of our standard, or a majority of our standard display solutions with the NEC architecture and, of course, the non-Android mainstay products, you can put an overlay on those devices. So if you're using what's called Naviset Administrator to control all of your NEC assets on your network, and you want to use that software still with our traditional displays, you want to turn something into a touchscreen, through our touchscreen partners, we can actually turn our display into a touchscreen device. A majority of our displays do have an OPS slot and, of course, a video input. So just like the CB series solution, if you wanted to add external device to that, you can actually do that very easily, and then we can help you customize that solution accordingly. Now, getting back into the office, of course, we're going to be, concerned about, health and safety. And with health and safety, we want to, have things as automated as possible. One great product that not a whole lot of folks know, at least when I talk to it, or when I used to travel and I used to talk to a lot of people out there in shows and meetings, we have what's called the human sensor accessory. And the human sensor accessory, the KT-RC3, is actually a remote control extension accessory, but also it has a motion sensor where you can do things to the display. So, for instance, you can turn the video on from mute. So it's basically in a standby mode. The individual walks into the boardroom or the meeting room, and then the display turns on automatically. So you don't have to look for a remote control that 25 other people have touched that morning. You don't have to walk up to the display and wonder where the power button is. It's just a nice, convenient feature that allows you to get in there and turn that display on automatically. You can also do some other things too with it. In addition to turning it on from a dormant state, you can alter the current brightness and audio levels if you want, and then you can change the source input. So, if there's a digital signage player playing on one of our displays and somebody walks by and creates motion, that human accessory will then, allow you to change video inputs automatically as well. So that's also a great tool for those environments too. And that is the human sensor accessory, folks. So the other thing too is that, we want to talk about, some, corporate or should I say on-prem considerations, some, things we have home office set up, huddle room set up, mobile storage, mobile carts, these type of things are what, we've been recommending as I get into solutioning with each one of these verticals. Healthcare, telehealth is important. You can use a CV series with a computer, to do telehealth applications, visitor and reception area. Imagine a visitor and reception area where there is an unattended visitor reception area. You have an NEC screen there with a human sensory accessory attached to it. It's just maybe playing a corporate message or some type of welcome message. And then upon detecting motion, it then can give instructions on proper entry or the procedure in which to get into the facility. So we'll help you, and we'll help you with those type of thoughts with these products that I'm presenting today. Education's been a big vertical for us, especially for CB. The virtual student, the point of view is very possible, with all of our displays, and also the fact that within our, our video wall, displays, you can network those together with tile matrix and have multiple inputs, using scalers and processors and things like that. And then, of course, mobile public storage conference cards. So these type of things, we want to keep in mind, as we move forward, as we still are in what I would consider, a very volatile state of, conducting business. Last but not least, before we just end this presentation, I want to talk about cleaning and disinfecting. That's important. I've been using this slide pretty much consistently since the lockdown, just as a quick reminder. I always get questions, well, do I use a cleaner or do I use a disinfectant? Well, when you use a disinfectant with a, the brand there, that's the disinfectant wipe, what it's going to do, it's going to streak. So yes, it will disinfect your product, but you're going to have streaking left over. That's why we recommend a combination of using a disinfectant with a cleaner to get rid of those streaks, so the streaks don't stay on there. And, that's just a very easy thing to do. I'm sure a lot of us have rules and regulations that are calling for that. And ultimately, everybody, NEC, not only do we do fantastic, custom solutions like the CB, our standard overlays, our standard display array with overlay capability. Also, we are fantastic, leader in the projector market. So we have, short throw, long throw, cinema style projectors. Just really, we have probably more projectors than we even know what to do with. But if I don't like necessarily leaving that out of my presentation, but when you're talking about, having, visual piece of real estate, showing it a nit count that's going to maybe overcome and outwit any kind of ambient lighting. Projectors on carts can also be a fantastic solution for those environments as well. And then Sharp NEC also specializes in desktop applications. Now, last but not least, I promised some best practices. And some of this will be very pablum to a lot of you, but again, we just like to repeat this. So first and foremost, if you don't have one, develop a plan. Have some type of plan so that you can act in a way that you're not going to miss a beat, so that employees don't have any overlap or any kind of downtime. And, that would be, prepare for the unknown would be some of those things. So as I mentioned many times during this presentation, I'm still recommending displays on carts, unless you're in an environment where that you're not going to be having to move things around. So, displays on carts are definitely important. Backup power. We've seen rolling blackouts in certain areas over the pandemic, and if you are able to have some type of backup power solution so that you're not having any downtime, that's highly recommended as well. Hardware spares. Whenever whenever Deborah and I are doing quotes for customers, we're recommending at least having 1 or 2 hot swap spares in tow if you possibly can, or you can entertain one of our warranty service options, that will allow for a convenient replacement of any items that need service. I talked about this in the very beginning, software redundancy. So when it comes to software, I guess, back at the very beginning of this, most folks that I know, they only had one go-to piece of software that they used. But now you have to have a backup. So, you want to have software redundancy. You want to have some type of contingency to fall back on if you need to do that. So, if you have Teams, use Google Meet as a backup. If you use GoToMeeting, use Teams as a backup, or WebEx. One of the other ones, there's many of them out there. Have a backup plan in place so that you don't have any downtime. And folks, with that being said, I'm at the end of the rope here, and I wanted to keep on track with time. I can tend to go on, but I wanted to thank you so much for your time and attention today. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help you with those questions. So thank you, everybody.
So much. There are many questions. Question number one, and this was an amazing presentation. Can you change the whiteboard background to a different color, like black or green?
No, unfortunately not. It's white.
Okay.
It's white.
Question two, does the whiteboard have templates, like for music teachers who are writing musical notes that have lines across for music?
No, they don't, but you can import those templates. When I was doing live demos, or should I say when I was traveling around North America, I had some demo grids that I brought with me, and those are just pictures. So you can bring a picture in, and you can establish that as a background, whether it's a grid, or if you're a coach and you want to put some type of ball field, up there, you can certainly do that from a picture import standpoint.
Great. Does this integrate with collaboration tools like Google Workplace?
It does not. It does not. And we are not just, I should have mentioned that, forgive me, and I'm glad for your question. We are not Google Play certified with this product. So if you are in the Google Play ecosystem, you will not be compatible with this. Now, that doesn't mean you still can't use Google Mail or one of the applications through the web browser. What this means is that you just can't use Google Play Download Store. That's why you have to go to an APK download site to download those applications manually.
Okay, great. Can you use your own computer and still use the touchscreen? I think you mentioned that you could.
Yeah, great question. You actually can. That you can use your own computer, no problem, and it is cross-compatible. So if you have an individual on, say, a touchscreen laptop and it's connected to the CB, they can use that back and forth, no problem.
And can you tell us a little bit about availability?
Availability, we have intake slated for November. And Deborah, you can back me up on that or give me a course correction on that.
That is correct, George.
Oh, good. Yeah. As the company nerd, I'm not always on the front line of that information, but I'm pretty sure our intake is for November.
Okay, fantastic.